Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Film the World Podcast. It is an absolute honor and a blessing to be with you here today. You know, I've been waiting 38 years to talk about this stuff, and I finally got the go-ahead. So, here it goes. This is a PSA. There will be a trigger warning right now. So, there's a good chance if this video found you, it is yours to see, okay? And if for any reason you don't want to be triggered or potentially have a different mindset, this might not be the time to see this video, okay? Because we've got some exciting stuff to cover, but I want to give you the opportunity to step away, okay? So, my name is William Patrick Moore, all right? That is my government name, okay? My God-given name is A cubed 13, okay? Maybe at some point in time, I'll be allowed to talk about that too. For today, I'm your host, Trickle Moore, okay? That's my pen name. All right. And just before we even get into this, I need to tell you about how awesome my week was. So today we got to go on a walk, and, I walked down to the stream, in Franklin, put my hands in the water, walked down there barefoot. It was amazing. It's beautiful, folks. Absolutely an amazing day. All right. It's an amazing day because this is the only day. You need to know that, okay? I need you to know that. I need you to know that tomorrow doesn't exist and yesterday doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is right now. We like to keep dates and whatnot to keep in touch with people, to have prearranged moments for things, But when it really comes down to it, all that exists is right now. So if for any reason you have something you gotta do, I want you to get up and just do it right now. Literally. This is your permission slip to do whatever you want to do, especially what makes life exciting. What gets your goat going, Because this is all that matters, okay? So this week, I've been, asking myself, when is it going to be time, to get into these things? When can we start really getting into the juice? That Boxmaster juice. That truth, that we're all seeking, And, fortunately enough for me, I finally got the qualia I needed. So I've given you enough definitions over the last couple of episodes, but today's word is absolute gratitude, okay? I have gratitude for everything, literally. Because this is a truth that I've been kind of keeping secret, For the sake of everything, let's just say that if you have eyes to see, if you can understand what I'm speaking to, this is real truth, okay? For the sake of YouTube, we're going to say that this is pure entertainment, okay? Pure entertainment. So you could write that off if you need that. But this week, I was riding my bike again. And I've had some amazing confirmations from all that there is, the universe, And all my friends came to visit. I've spoken to this before. The raven, the fox, the red fox with the bushy tail, the cardinal. And last night, I had an amazing dream. For the first time ever, in my dream, I had this raven, but it wasn't a regular raven. It was like an albino raven, okay? But its eyes were golden. He had sage eyes. If you ever seen Naruto, you'll know what the sage eye is. And that was just another confirmation, okay? But biking this week, I was kind of, up in the fields saying, man, I really wish I could get this, just off my chest. I really want to tell the people what's up with everything going on. I've been blessed being educated on analytics at probably some of the highest levels. I've got tools for data analytics that give me insight into forecasts that haven't even materialized, right? That are coming on a tomorrow that doesn't exist, or a yesterday that is no more, And it gets kind of frustrating looking at these things, just knowing how data is so malleable. All right. But 2 days ago, I got in a pretty serious accident, as this crow or raven, probably both because there are two in the tree, is looking down at me. And I couldn't get away from this car. And this curb straight up took me out, folks. Absolutely hilarious. It was beautiful. And that was a confirmation to me that, dude, get up off that arse and, maybe consider doing these things, Because I've had a lot of people around me in my entire life telling me to kind of like hold back, Will, why can't you be normal? Why can't you just be like everyone else? Or like, Will, stop getting tattoos. This is ridiculous. A tattoo? That's crazy. Or like, cut your hair, dude. You don't look like everybody. What's wrong with you? And like, it got me thinking, I'm not like everybody else. I've even had my uncle ask me, he's like, Will, are you an alien? Like, dude, I'm not an alien. No, I'm a human. Yeah, that's what I am. I'm a human. I'm a doer in the body, baby. That's what's up. Shout out to John, like, I just want you to know it's okay to be you. This is your permission slip. All right? And as I see things going around in the world and all this crazy, it's okay to be a conscious observer and observe these things and just say, none of this is for me. That's not me. Whatever's going on in the news, dude, that's ridiculous. Are you kidding me? That's not even real. Do these guys even do analytics? No. Somebody else did. Somebody else actually wrote a bullet point and a speech for so-and-so to speak to do these things. Okay? I need you to know this, folks, because this is important. This is so important. And then like a day ago, I was biking, you know, going in front of the high school, dodging traffic as these kids are like desperately trying to get into class, you know? And I wasn't like necessarily paying attention to the road because I remembered there was like some serious construction here in Franklin, you know? And like, dude, I got a flat at 22 miles an hour. We all know how that ends, especially with clip-ins and as my watch chimes, right? Shout out to Christopher Ward, you know? So I couldn't slam on the brakes, right? I'm like sliding, right? It's just like metal on pavement, just not working out, you know? And I just plow right into this car and laugh, you know? Because that's all you can do, folks. That's all that matters. And that's a reality check for you, you know? And as I was like looking up, you know, thankful I'm not like too broken, kind of looked down at my leg. Dude, everybody always gave me, you know, crap for wearing these like anklets, right? And I always wear them for like cadence so I could like know when to shift up and when to shift down because you're pedaling too fast. Ankle bracelets ride up on your leg, okay? And that's like a call to action to like go and shift up or shift down, you know, depending on how fast you're going. All right? Well, fortunate enough for me, I had 4 on this ankle, right? And my sacral anklet literally shattered, okay? Probably saving me from breaking my ankle. Literally. Now, that didn't prevent it from like digging straight in there and making me bleed and whatnot. And I guess I scuffed my leg. But you know, we just got up because that's what you do, folks. You just keep going. Nothing should ever keep you down. You know, and as I'm changing my tire, I got a visit again from the Raven just flying over, chilling, singing some tune. And then like, you know, I'm putting on my spare and in the bushes, get that bushy red-tailed fox again. Just all this moral support, you know? And I had 2 good Samaritans stop and they're like, dude, I saw you plow into that car. Do you need a ride home? No. Because, you know, this is my journey and I got out here and I should be able to get myself home, right? So I go and put on my spare, pedal my merry way back at a measly, 7 miles an hour, counting my blessings, folks, and just loving that moment. I don't care what that moment is. It's the best moment. I need you to know that you are infinite, okay? And nothing can keep you down, ever. And if there's something you got to do it, okay? Because, when I was like literally getting back to my neighborhood, I saw no less than like 10 cardinals. They're all jumping from tree to tree, racing me in my house. Of course, they smoked me because I'm like all out of gas and like just disheveled, right? But it didn't matter because I had all that moral support. And I need you to know that the universe is happening for you and that you've got endless support. I see all of these things as my spirit guides and my ancestors literally screaming at me to finally let it out. Be your real self. Give the people some real truth, because I'm a private person, dude. I don't need to share these things. Over the last 3 years, like I've said before, I've literally been helping behavioral kids and autistic kids, and I stepped away from that this year, okay? Because I needed to focus on this project and getting this message out, And maybe this will resonate with you, okay? And like 2 nights ago, I probably had the most vivid dream I've ever had, period. All right? I was driving, going on one of my spontaneous trips. I was driving over some random bridge. This beautiful bridge, huge, right? Could see through the grates, and I could look down on this city, but this city was absolutely in rubble. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't holding value and holding its ground, because it was preventing, a broken city was preventing a beautiful city from absolute catastrophe and flood. Okay? Just absolutely holding all the water back, even though it was disheveled, totally in dismay, just rubble, right? But still, the water couldn't break through at all. And like, I kept driving. And then I was thinking, I forgot to feed my skinny pigs. Yes, I have guinea pigs, folks. And they are skinny. Or probably even more skinny that I didn't feed them, right? But I knew that there was going to be a way. There's always going to be a way home. I've been everywhere, folks. And I promise you, home is where you are, okay? You're never away from home, But as I'm going, this is I can't just flip a Yui. This is in the middle of a bridge. I came to this fork in the road. On one side, I got this semi, right? It's totally blocking things. It's head-on traffic. I can't go down that road. It's not possible, folks. So, I went on the road less traveled, right? So I veered off to the right. And I mean, it was dark, it was dingy, and there was clearly construction going on, And like, eventually, my car stopped. And I had to get out. And like I said, it was construction. So there was this asphalt. I'm walking my way through this thing, right? My feet are getting stuck in the asphalt. And I'm kind of, I'm always happy-go-lucky, folks. Nothing keeps me down. But I was a little worried. My feet were sticking. I could feel the heat, But then all of a sudden, there was this guy yelling at me, right? He had no right ear, totally missing. And he's like, dude, the heck are you doing down there? Come on, follow me. I must have lost him twice, really, on the way to his apartment or whatever. And eventually we got there. He found me. He's like, I never leave anybody behind. When we got to his apartment, his kid was there. He's watching TV. And they're like, dude, this is my favorite program. You're going to love it. Mind if we just watch this before we find you way home? And I was like, sure. Let's do this thing. And shortly thereafter, his entire family walks in. The whole group. And everybody's got food. It's like a full catered event, It's a feast. And these people, they let me stay. I offered to even go and sit out in the hall, let them do their thing, be their family. And they all brought me in, fed me, got me full, gave me joy. I gave them joy, right? And it really got me thinking when I woke up. I was like, I've been keeping a lot of people happy. Everything I've ever done is to keep people happy. Give somebody a smile. That's what makes my day, And maybe it's the same for you. I don't know. But like, I don't do this negativity. I feel it radiating off of people, literally, you know? And it took me a long time to kind of figure out, like, dude, I'm like a spiritual muse or something. I'm like helping these people, bringing them joy. I don't ask for anything in return. I've never asked one time, you know? And then a lot of people always kind of eventually start to expect this stuff, you know? I've always kind of, tried to reach out, even though when I had no time. But today, I got permission to do this for me. This is something I want to do, okay? This is me, okay? This isn't for anybody else, okay? And maybe that's selfish, but, I think I'm going to bring you some joy anyway, because if I've got something to say, you know what? Somebody's got to hear this. There's got to be somebody out there, It's got to be, And maybe you're like that too. And I don't really talk about this stuff too much. I'm like a super spiritual person. I've always been a super spiritual person, okay? And everybody's kind of called me crazy. And eventually, I stopped talking about it. And then about 3 years ago, I met this amazing person. And, I wasn't even talking to this person, right? And she woke me up, okay? And reminded me about what I have to say, okay? Who I was. And all I needed was a glance. I need to talk to her. Doesn't matter. Because the truth is everything is inside of you. Everything. And that you are infinite. Okay? My whole life has been this spiritual life, And most likely it's the same for you, Because I'm a human, okay? I'm a human. And hopefully you are. And if you're not, dude, shout out to whatever you are, okay? Because we need you too, all right? And my whole life, I was raised Lutheran, okay? What does that mean? I finally come to terms with what a lot of these things mean, okay? Because just because it's a religion doesn't mean that the spiritual condition is limited to any one group, all right? It's for everybody, dude, all right? And what I've kind of come to terms with is everybody's got their own little religion, things that they believe in. They want to be special and exclusive. Dude, I've met everybody that, I could possibly want to meet, right? From, anybody to, perceived the most important people, perceived famous people. But you know what? They all walk, they all talk, and we all bleed. And nobody's any different. And that's important to know. Because it doesn't matter who you are. Circumstances do not matter. It's what you do with those circumstances that matters. That's the only thing that matters. Everything has meaning, everything. Okay? So to exclusively look at any one particular thing is legit another defined segregation. Okay? That we're volunteering to align with. And that's okay. But just know what it is. Okay? It's important to be aware of these things, folks. I've been everywhere. Not everybody believes in the same thing. And that's a good thing. Okay? Because we get new ideas. Okay? A lot of times, people are always telling me, God, he's got a twig and berries. Or, oh, God, she has a womb. Okay? Well, see, we like to water things down, folks. And it seems a lot easier to look at such a thing and narrow it down and water it down. But the truth is, God is everything, including you and me with the words in the room. So that really doesn't boil down what God is. Can't totally synthesize this thing out, right? And it's important to be aware of these things. Okay? Because I need to give you permission, if you need it, to explore. Explore yourself. You know everything I know. And anything that anybody knows, you also know. Okay? So don't let anybody try to gatekeep you with credentials or perceived authenticity. Do you really think these people are authentic when they say the same thing on the news or anywhere? Is that original? I don't know. I can let you decide. It's just super interesting to look at these things and just appreciate the moment that we have now. Okay? Because the now is the only thing that exists. All right? This is an absolute university of the inner stellar soul system, right? Because you have a soul, okay? And don't ever let anybody take that away from you, okay? Do not let these people, take your power away. The people are the church. Everyone. No one excluded. And I'm really hoping this message resonates with you. And if it does, if you're watching this, most likely it does. Okay? Because we need a soul tribe. Okay? We need to bring people together. People help people. Okay? People don't talk down to people. Okay? We uplift them. Okay? We raise their awareness, frequency, whatever you want to call it. Dimensions exist inside of you, in your university solar system. Okay? And on May 27th, 2025, we started the trials of Gion, or Eden. All right? And I need you to know that this is your Eden. Okay? And that nothing that's been done can't be undone. Okay? And if something doesn't look right to you, cool. You don't need to identify with these things. Okay? We choose to align with them to build this persona of an ego, right? Saying, yeah, this is me. Stamp, approval, right? But I need you to know that you can learn anything. You can learn everything from any interaction, from anyone. Because your university is happening for you, whether you believe in that or not. You know? And I think that this message might serve you well because it serves me well. You know? And it's just a different perspective, right? So if you don't want to go and believe in aliens, if you don't want to go and believe in all these conspiracies, you don't have to. You're looking at other university souls within a system. Okay? And you don't have to align with them if they don't jive with you. Okay? It's important to reach to people that can teach you. And like, I've been given my whole life. And I think this is a pretty decent platform to, spread awareness, a new perspective. Okay? Enough of this bickering, because it's for everyone. Everyone has a choice. Okay? So enough of this lack mindset. You already have everything. I want you to know that material things do not matter. Yeah, they might give you some clout, might give you a platform, might give you cruise control, right? But a lot of these things keep you stuck, okay? Because some of these things are souls that are specifically designed to delay you and put you into like a loop, an OODA loop, right? Where you're just always triggered or always trying to beat somebody to the punch. But you don't have to be like that, okay? There's so much to learn from everybody and everything. So if something is like shouting out to you, do it. I mean, that's what matters, And even one of my behavioral kids, he's like, Jesus is God. And I'm like, interesting take, You can choose for that to be true. But the truth is, he's an ascended master, okay? He showed a path, all right? He's not God. One person isn't enough to be all that there is, including the words in the room, right? Not possible. But it's definitely a path to follow, right? And I need you to be aware of this stuff, folks. Because when you start going and worshiping idols, it's pretty counterintuitive to all that there is. You know? Do not take your power away. You've got so much potential. I haven't met one person that I didn't see potential in. Even these dark angels and monitoring spirits and all this other weird stuff. They had no idea about it. I mean, I just learned this on the quest of life, on this plane that we walk, because I think back, I'm like, how many lifetimes have I done this thing? Infinite, right? Probably. And recently I've been able to tap into at least 9, right? Can only go 9 back. Something strange about that. Must be something. Maybe there's something to that, folks. But I need you to know that there's no end and there is no beginning. So when people are saying the sky is falling, okay, if that needs to be true for them, great. But being a conscious observer, it doesn't need to be that for you, okay? I'm trying to show you another way, folks. And this is my truth. But today is your day too. And I want you to seize this moment because it's the only moment, okay? And it's 2025. And we're in the trials of Gion, Eden, whatever you want to call it. So find that happiness, do that thing, and be the person you were meant to be. And I'm doing this because I need to be the face of the change that I need to see in this world. And I hope to take you along with me, my soul tribe. All right? See you soon. Peace.